So hi and welcome back on my channel to this brand new video. Now in this video I want to give you a quick overview on the latest updates for the KNX integration and Home Assistant that were published with the latest release of Home Assistant, the August release. And the changes that were made were mainly focused on the group monitor, which is really powerful now. And so therefore let us quickly take a look to that. So I'm here in my Home Assistant installation with the KNX integration already opened up. And what you can see, what is important is that first of all you have to import your EDS project. So in my case here I have a KNX project imported in German, so therefore don't wonder if the group addresses are in the group monitor named in German. So therefore let us directly head over to the group monitor, and yeah, that's basically what was updated, and we can already see the changes that were made to the user interface. So if you take a look here in the time row, you can see that here we now have a time delta. So what this means is the time between those two telegrams, or those two. Now in this case you can see here we got a telegram from my mini touch display from Schneider, and 19 seconds later we received another telegram. In this case it was the temperature 23.7 and 23.8. And this will be quite useful because we now also have the options to group telegrams, and we have some more advanced filter options, but I'll come back to that in a moment. What we can also do is that we can click on one of those devices. So for example here the display or this telegram here, and then we have a new overview about this telegram, so we can see it a little bit clearer or in another way. So here you can see the source, the destination, the value that was sent, and down below here you can see the telegram as well as the data point type. Now again, it's important that you have imported your KNX project in order that Home Assistant can decode those telegrams. So first of all it can show you the name and also decode the value itself. Because what you can see is here we have group addresses don't have any name, and that's the case because those are some new addresses that I have created but not imported into Home Assistant. And if I can click on that, you can see basically nothing. We only see the raw value. So that's the one thing, but I already mentioned that we now have the option to group those telegrams. And this is really useful because what we can do is that we can group it, for example, by source. And now here we see all the telegrams that were sent by my Theben actuator. And if I collapse that, here we can see from my push button sensor, the display that I already mentioned. And if I go down a little bit further, what we can also see is, for example, here we have telegrams by my weather station. And now here the time delta is again between those two telegrams next to each other. So it's quite handy to directly see within the group monitor how often maybe a device sends telegrams to the bus. But we can not only group them by source, we can also group it by destination, and this is basically by the group addresses. We can group it by the type, so a read request or a response, as well as a write request. And last but not least also with the direction, so either incoming telegrams that were received by Home Assistant or outgoing telegrams that were sent by Home Assistant. Now if we have grouped those telegrams, we can also apply a filter. And here you can see a filter, for example, by the source, or what we can also do is by destination. So for example, we can now filter all the telegrams with the wind alarm, and here you can see all the outgoing telegrams and all the incoming telegrams. Now you might ask yourself, why is Home Assistant sending wind alarms when it's coming from the weather station? Well, that's the case because you can see here we don't have a group value write request but a group value read request. So here Home Assistant was asking the weather station what is the current state of the wind alarm. If I don't group this any longer and instead unmark all these filters here, what's also quite a nice addition is that we can directly see in clear numbers how many telegrams in this case were sent by the address 111. So in this case 40 telegrams, by the weather station 438, and so on and so forth. And we can also see it by the destination. So here we can clearly see how many telegrams were sent to each of those group addresses. And last but not least, again, we have the direction and the type. And also here we have direct numbers. So it's pretty useful to analyze the behavior on your KNX bus. Now, besides those new functions here directly in the group monitor, we can also head over, for example, to our entities. And here you can see I have added some entities, for example, the spots in the living room. And here we now have also the button log. And if I click on it, we see all the telegrams that has one of the group addresses used by the entity in its destination. So here we can see all the telegrams regarding this specific entity. And another thing that we can do is if we head to the project overview, we can also do it directly within the telegram. So for example, if we see here the rain alarm and want to see all the values of it, we can click on it, view telegrams, and then we have a filter automatically enabled to the destination of the rain alarm. Now here in this case, as the weather station sits inside, I don't have any rain alarm that was sent. But that's basically the new additions to the group monitor in Home Assistant. And in my conclusion, this is a really useful update. Because remember, Home Assistant typically runs 24/7. And so if you have, for example, a problem or a random bug that occurs overnight or even during the day, you typically don't have the EDS already opened up with the diagnostics and running. And so therefore, the group monitor is really perfect for analyzing bugs, etc. that occurred when the EDS, for example, wasn't running. And besides that, also the group monitor is useful for when you make changes to your Home Assistant configuration, etc. So you don't have to open the EDS every time. Now, besides that, there are some minor changes made to the KNX integration, mainly in the settings. So if I head over to devices and services into KNX, and here you can see my KNX configuration. If I click here on this settings symbol or on configure, you can see that here we can specify the telegram limit. So the telegrams that we saw in the group monitor are in my installation limited to 1000, and we can set it up to a maximum of 25,000. Now obviously this will then take up more storage. Besides that, if you now want to reconfigure your KNX integration, for example, you want to change to secure or to another tunnel, then it's now changed a little bit on where you need to click. You have to click on these three dots here, and then you can reconfigure the integration, and in here then you can either import the keyring file if you use secure, or reconfigure the connection itself, so change from tunneling to routing, etc. And so that's basically all the updates that were made with the August update. In my conclusion, really a useful update, and I really liked the changes that were made to the group monitor. Now I would be interested in your opinions, so leave them down below in the comment section, and if you have any suggestions, also write them down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to not miss out on any new videos. So with that, I would say I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.